This is the Authority Company Podcast, conversations with leaders designing our future. Hola, I'm Joe Pardavila, and today's guest is global tax strategist Divakar Vijayasarathy. His new book, Don't Just Pay Taxes, How Conscious Entrepreneurs Profit from Taxes, shows entrepreneurs how to align with government priorities to grow their business. We first spoke 2 years ago, and I'm excited to pick up that conversation today. Divakar, welcome to the show. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great, Joe. Can't be better, I would say, in life. And it's so nice to see you again.
And speaking of seeing each other again, last time we spoke almost 2.5 years ago, and I remember from our conversation, Divakar, I don't know if you're going to remember this, but you were searching for clarity the last time we spoke.
Absolutely.
So now, almost 3 years on, after writing this book, going through what you've been through over the last couple of years, what clarity did you find that you didn't have then?
I found my purpose in life. And that made so much of a difference to the way I started looking at the world around. The biggest realization was I was searching outside for answers, whereas the real searchlight focus had to be within. And when that direction of the searchlight changed, I mean, it is, I so wish for everyone and everyone mankind to go through that process, because life is so liberating when you go through that journey. So that's exactly what happened. And today, and it's not that I've become a saint or a monk, but as this inner cleansing happened, inner discovery happened, I mean, its reflection was felt in the outer world. Our businesses have grown world over. From then to now, I've moved 2 countries and scaled across all the 4 countries where we are. I took some time off again, went on a spiritual journey, built my entire ideology on, built my own program courses on this. It was more about doing it for myself. And then I so wish if this can help more people who are in a similar trajectory of finding themselves, I think it'll be fascinating.
That's awesome. And that was obviously your greater purpose, but part of it is, the businesses you discussed. And when we spoke last, you had this quote that tax could become the world's great unifier.
Absolutely.
So before we get into that, because I know for many people, and Divakar, you probably know this better than I, the word tax doesn't feel good. Like there's inherently like bad feelings that drum up inside of people. So how did writing this book sharpen or evolve that belief that tax is the world's great unifier?
Oh, absolutely. I think if there is one word which humanity has misunderstood so much, completely, is tax, right? I mean, tax is a tool for behavior. It's not a levy, it's a language. And when people actually understand the language, it becomes so different. I mean, imagine having a puppy at home, right? I mean, the moment he barks at you, you can't say it's a dog barking. You just try and understand he's saying something. Let me understand him better. Then you will see the barks also come down and your engagement becomes so different. It's so productive and constructive. That's exactly what happens when you understand tax laws. And when you start looking at tax as a language, as a statement of intent, then you no longer look at it with resentment. You start looking at it with curiosity. And that changes the bonding between the stakeholders. Right? Ultimately, what the nation and an entrepreneur wants is exactly the same. We both want progress. Which is that we don't communicate. One person comes across as trying to fleece the other person comes across as trying to game the system. Whereas ultimately, what we both are trying to do is aim for progress. I mean, just look at the narrative, right? The moment you start to understand it. So this is personally the mission. I mean, from where we spoke, I went to World Economic Forum. Shared the same vision. They took me in their new champion cohort. Now I'm personally on a vision to redefine the social contract between government and enterprise through tax alignment.
And the way you're redefining that is, and you talk about it in the book, and the last we spoke was, you want entrepreneurs to see tax as profit, not punishment. So help me wrap my brain around this as a non-entrepreneur, because as a non-entrepreneur and just your typical US citizen, sometimes tax feels like a punishment the better you do. Like obviously the system, the way it's laid out is the better you do in life, the more they're going to tax from you. It's just common American taxology.
Mindset, right?
So
So,
how do we change that mindset from profit to not punishment?
oh yes, no, to punish to punishment to profit, right? From
Yes.
punishment to profit. So, Joey, now you said as a common American citizen. Now let's understand what is the religion of America.
Capitalism?
Exactly. And what does capitalism mean?
The ability to make and earn as much money as you can? I don't know.
Exactly.
I'm just
No,
guessing.
absolutely. And what is America's single biggest asset?
It's people?
Think deeper, right? I mean, why does the world look up to America?
Oh, the American dream.
The American dream, right? And the American dream is expressed in monetary terms based on
Success and how much you make.
in dollars.
Yeah.
So your currency, which is the dollar, is the ultimate American possession. Now, if there is one single instrument which has dominated the world since 1944, Bretton Woods, is the American dollar. Which is why if if India has to buy oil from Middle East, we still have to buy in dollars. The more dollar is prevalent, its value increases. Now let's get back to the core of what you asked, right? It's a common conversation which people say, the more I pay, the more I earn, the more I pay taxes. It's because you've not understood the system. As you said, America, the religion is capitalism. Its deity is the dollar. Now, what does it take to keep capitalism intact? Two things. Remember, and if you understand these two words, you can never go wrong. Or I would even say this one word. This one word, if every American citizen understands, they would never be paying taxes in this country. Reinvestment. That is the ritual of capitalism. Dollar is your deity, your religion is capitalism, reinvestment is your ritual. And the moment you reinvest, and you reinvest in the direction which your government wants to do, you will be amazed. There are schemes where you invest $1, you get a $5 tax write off, $4 tax write off. Now, you don't need to pay more when you earn more, you just need to reinvest more when you earn more. If you understand this, you will be amazed at how many doors open up for you. So, if there is one thing all your readers, all your listeners to this podcast can take home, this one word can save you tens, hundreds, thousands, millions, if not billions, based on where you based on your strata. And look at it this way. The other way of looking at it is, you said you use the word American dream. I was born in a slum in India, and I'm now in Greenwich, in Connecticut. What brought me here? I haven't even seen America when in my earlier days, but I've seen American movies, right? Your single biggest source of selling the American dream is movies, Hollywood. Which is why you invest in movies, you get a 1 is to 4, 1 is to 5, 1 is to 6, 1 is to 7 write off. That's the way the religion is propagated. So you get the picture of America, right? You've got your deity as the dollar, religion as capitalism, ritual as reinvestment, propaganda as Hollywood. You fall within this cycle, you will never be taxed.
I love it. All right, but I will, Divakar, as you know, I love to play a devil's advocate. And so you use the keyword reinvestment. So for many, say they're incredibly successful. Let's say they live in California and they're very successful tech entrepreneurs. They're getting taxed over 50%. And then they look out their window and they see homeless people living on the street. They see crime. And I'm not throwing like, political talking points out here. It's everyone could see this, that there's stuff going on that we're not happy with. Their argument to you, Divakar, will be like, where's my reinvestment? Where's my over 50% of my income going? And you're calling it a reinvestment, but I'm not seeing it. Maybe it is a reinvestment, but I'm not seeing it. And in the book, you talk about alignment with government priorities.
Exactly.
So let's get there.
So, two things, right? One is about doing what the governments want you to do. That's the citizen's obligation. Second, the government doing what it is committed to do. That's the government's obligation. Now, I'm not here to question whether or pass a judgment on whether the government is doing its job or not. But let's look at it this way. If you were to invest in a movie, let's say you are a successful professional and you have got $1 million of taxable income. Now you are supposed to pay, if you were in California, let's say half a million as taxes to the government. Now, instead of putting in half a million as taxes to the government, I put in 200,000 in a Hollywood movie. Let's say Mission Impossible 6 is getting produced, and I put 200,000 in uh, MI6 production. I get an asset. I further the government's agenda. The asset is going to make me money. But if every movie investment is leveraged 1 is to 4, 5, 6, 7 times. So if I put 200K, let's assume it's leveraged 1 is to 4, I end up getting an 800K tax write off, which means for putting in 200K, I get a 400K cash in hand on day zero. No other investment gives you. You don't need to worry about whether the government is putting its money properly or not. You are doing what they want you to do. I think that's where our job ends. I'm not saying we should not be responsible citizens. That's for a different conversation. But if this makes sense, Joe, this is typically how the billionaires, the biggest guys, I've worked with quite a few billionaires. They are not there because they work the hardest or they cheat people. No, they are there because they understand the system. The moment you understand the system, you know what truly matters. Your own president, Mr. Trump, is a classic example. When someone asked him, "Why have you never paid taxes?" he said, "I've understood the system." That's it. Right? I mean, who else in this world could be in more intense scrutiny than the president of the most powerful nation? Right? And he's so clear and there's so much of wisdom in what he said. So the moment you understand, so my entire conversation on alignment is understand. Once you understand, you align. That's all.
Nice. All right, cool. Well, you surrendered your accountant license because you felt boxed in. What systems do entrepreneurs cling to long after the system stops serving them? Like, are there some things that since you figured out that this accountant license, it's just stopping me from growing? What are some things that entrepreneurs are clinging on to that are preventing that growth?
Oh, it's the most important thing is you speak to any entrepreneur. I'm part of YPO, EO, World Economic, you name all those apex entrepreneurial bodies. They say it's a lonely journey. It's a lonely journey as long as you don't understand the system. Now, look at it as an entrepreneur. There can only be two variables in my life: what I want to do, where I want to do. If I keep where I want to do, fix it. Let's say I want to live in California. I love the place. I love the weather. Then fine, do what that market rewards. Be in the tech services space. You've got the entire ecosystem going. But if you are not keen on that, but let's say I'm in the business, I want to be in the business of crypto. In which case, you are fanatic about being of what you want to do. Look at the market which rewards it. You won't be alone. So the mindset of an entrepreneur is about alignment. You either align to what you want to do or you align to where you want to do. The problem comes is when we try and optimize for more than one at the same time. It's never going to happen. Focus is keeping it simple towards just one point of alignment. You can't say, I want this, I want that, I want this. Then you will lead a mediocre life. You will consistently complain. You will consistently, lead things which are suboptimal. Take one. Imagine Serena Williams playing tennis. She plays pickle. She plays paddle. She would have been a league player in all the three. She says, I'll only do tennis, and which is why she's a world champion, right? I mean, you here for us, it's not about beating others. It's about being true to yourself. And when you do that, I mean, you'll be amazed at how opportunities open up and how life becomes so liberating.
Obviously, being single focus has been important to you because you spent almost 11 years figuring out the why of taxation. And I'm curious, what kept you from giving up that question? Because for a lot of people, 11 years, man, it's a long time, Divaka, to be locked into one question that's sort of like your North Star. Everyone, entrepreneurs always talk about. Why? What kept you at it?
See, I mean, so there is a story. Apart from the fact that yes, there was a phase in life in 2007 when I ended up paying 70% taxes. When I was facing a 70% tax liability. Of course, I didn't get money, so I didn't pay that money. So it was 100% write off. That's a different story. Uh, But that's when I realized if it's a problem for me, it's a problem for everyone. And when I started roaming around asking people, everyone was unhappy about the tax system. You speak to the entrepreneurs, they keep cribbing. You speak to the bureaucrats and the policymakers, they keep saying these guys are there to cheat the system. So imagine tax is a social contract, Joey, and both parties to the contract are perennially unhappy. There is something fundamentally wrong. I mean, imagine you have a contract with your partner, business partner, and you both are unhappy, but you still are forced to be together. So every contract will have challenges, they'll have friction only when both people don't understand each other. Here is the only case where whether you make money, you have a problem. When you don't make money, you keep complaining about the system. Whether you pay the right amount of every situation, there is complaint on either side. So that was my curiosity as to how and why they even exist. And when you go to the deeper connotation, right, the deeper purpose of tax, of course, it's like religion, right? I mean, every religion was originally brought about for bringing in social harmony, and eventually it became a game of power, and then it became a cause for wars. And that's a different. We can keep talking on tax is no different. It was started with a very different purpose to align behavior, to protect civilizations, to enable progress. All those things are out of window, but it's coming back. I'm so glad it's coming back because in a world of unlimited mobility. Today, you don't need to be in the US to do a business in US to serve a client in US because the world has become infinitely mobile as far as talent, capital, and market. So I can go live in Timbuktu and serve my client in Texas. It's not going to make a difference, right? So the world we are headed towards is tax as a tool to enable progress. And nations who don't see that would be losing its best preservable assets. The top citizen. UK is a classic example. They're losing the most accomplished and the wealthy by the day. It's because of their own tax policies. And they won't see the effect now. In 2 to 3 years' time, Mark, we'll meet again in 3 years' time. You will see what the impact of these policies have happened on their GDP. It's going to be catastrophic.
Devak, on that subject, I want to pull that thread because you work internationally. You work across multiple countries. You're from India, live in the States, so obviously you have the background of those two countries, and obviously we'll get into the other ones you work with. But how are taxes different everywhere else? Because I think as Americans, we all have this feeling that the world revolves around us, and our tax system is probably the best tax system, and so on and so forth, or maybe it's the worst, depending if you're an optimist or a pessimist. How does the tax system and the way things work compare here as opposed to other countries you work with or other countries that you've been able to dabble with?
See, okay, I've lived in 7 countries. Okay,
Okay.
I've shifted with family to 5, and I work in 40 plus countries. So, at the highest level, I have this framework called the world by design. There are only 4 categories of countries. 98% of the world will come into this. It's source countries, destination countries, conduit countries, and tax havens. These are just the 4 buckets. Source countries are uh, developed economies, exporters of capital. Destination countries are developing economies, importers of capital. People go to source when they want peace in life. They go to developed nations when they want opportunity in life. Then you have this interesting category of countries like what I call the conduit countries: Dubai, Singapore, Hong Kong, Panama. These are not tax havens. They're expensive. They charge between 10 and 15% or 20% tax. Not high, but it's between 10 and 20%. It's palatable for the simple reason they offer you mobility. So their capital can move. These act as lubricants, right? When you are in the global navigation, imagine the whole world. I always have a world map in front of my eyes just to see like this is all it is. So if capital is moving from point A to point B, and imagine a long pipe, you can't have a straight linear pipe. You have these small hinges, right? The curves in pipes, which are there to connect various wedges. The conduit countries play that role, and they have a regulatory simplicity which is impossible in a source or a destination country, because source countries and destination countries are complex by their design. So you cannot keep laws simple. You've got zillion interests to be accommodated inside your constitution. So the constitution has to be vague. It has to be a framework. It can't be a rule. But smaller countries which are so homogeneous in their narrative, if you look at Singapore, it has just three highest level. 70% are Chinese Singaporeans, 20% are Malay Singaporeans, and the rest is the remaining. So you can see it's so homogeneous. So it's very easy to frame laws for a homogeneous population. Now, since you got back to tax systems, source countries, developed economies, the old world economies innately will have very, very complex tax systems. And their tax to GDP will be high, tax base will be high. Most of them would be welfare states. America, in many reasons why it is far better than the most of the source destinations, I would say, Germany, Japan, UK, the developed world, or the Nordic countries, right? The Scandinavian countries, or Finland, Denmark, all these, Austria, Switzerland, their tax to GDP ratio is between 35 to 40%. US, it's around 25%, between 25 and 30%. Developing world is between 10 to 15%. The higher the tax to GDP ratio, higher the concentration of decisions with the government,
Mm.
which is why the government takes so many decisions for you in Sweden vis-a-vis in the US. And compared to India, it's far lesser.
Hmm.
Now, as countries so-called get developed, what does development mean? More control by the government, more bureaucracy, more
More taxes.
more taxes. They start to take decisions, and that's where the real challenge happens. So today, what we are seeing, Joe, from there to now, I'm so optimistic about the future of digital nations. City states which are becoming policy magnets. Estonia, for example, has over 55% of crypto startups in the world. That's a tiny country. It's I wouldn't it's probably that there's one third or one fourth the size of my state in the US. But it has 55% of the global startups on cryptos. It's
Why did that happen? Because I know like Mind Valley is based out of Estonia, and there's a bunch of like tech companies in Estonia.
Yes.
What's the secret sauce of Estonia?
They are so intentional in their policy making. They said, see, Joy, if you were to attract the fittest people in the world to your nation, what you would do, you would make the best gyms available, best boot camps available, and then you start propagating that message, right? That's exactly what they've done.
Hmm.
They said, I've got a very simple regulatory. It's not a tax-free country by any means. You pay 20% tax. But no one has a problem paying tax. Let's understand. No one has a problem because tax is a price for market access, right? You live in a house, you pay rent or you pay your mortgage. You live in a country and set up your business. It gives you facilities to thrive. No one in their sane minds will have a problem paying taxes. The problem comes when you start to believe that, yes, the more I succeed, the more I'm forced to pay. That's the challenge. That comes from lack of understanding the system. But to come back to your question of Estonia, why they are succeeding, it's very, very deep intentional policy making. Because they have very clearly engineered the kind of society they want to build. And they understand the core driver for any society to be directional or dimensional in a particular way is to have their tax policies and enabling regulatory policies in place. Singapore, Dubai, all these countries are succeeding only because of their regulatory policies.
Hmm. Interesting. That's great. No, it's awesome. It is funny though. You mentioned the fact that Nordic countries have that higher tax rate. Yet, if you look at statistics for happy people, they always are from Nordic countries. Do you string that together? Like, what? They're paying higher taxes, yet they're happier. Where you would think if you said to Americans, they'd be like, "I'm not happy paying more taxes."
Completely get it. So sometime back, I was with this gentleman, Samdu Chetri, and he was, I think I spoke about my interaction with the Prime Minister of Bhutan many years back in your last podcast. I also had the chance to meet this gentleman who was the founder of Gross National Happiness Index in Bhutan. So I had the same conversation with him because Bhutan is so specific on the kind of people, number of tourists they would want to entertain in a year. He said, like, how can you even measure happiness? That was a question. It's a sense of feeling. Is someone else, and what is the highest sense of emotion for a human being? It's a bedrock of American Constitution, right? Individual liberty, freedom of choice. I don't have that. I pay 50% tax. I'm compelled to go to a government facility. Of course, they are great, but why should I be compelled to go? Right now, that's a question. And that's why you send an American kid. My own kids won't go and pay 50% tax and be held hostage to a system which someone else believes is right for them. Right? It could be world class in terms of the amenities and stuff, but it hits me at the core of my being, freedom. So, higher taxes, equating that to higher, probably if that connotation could be slightly different, lower decision making, then the Scandinavian countries could top the charts, because a lot of my decisions are taken by the government on my behalf. Now it's a matter of individual preference whether I'm happy with that situation or otherwise. Uh, Otherwise, it could be a judgment call. But saying they are the most happiest people in the world is hardcore judgment, because no one can define happiness.
Right. Yeah, no, it is funny though you say that, because it's almost like a give and take. Like, sure, they're probably happier, but they're giving up some of their quote unquote freedoms. Whereas you said that if you would say that to the United States, like citizens would be like, hey, we're going to charge everyone 60% tax, but man, you're not going to have any choices. It's almost like that TV show Pluribus, where it's a hive mind and everyone's thinking the same. Like, it's very much like, I can't imagine Americans embracing that and be happy with it, you know?
Oh, absolutely. For an American, that would be like a seven-star prison. Because you pay 50-60% tax and you can't decide, because you would think that, okay, of course there are private schools, but I'm paying 50% tax. Why should I send my kids to private schools?
Right.
Right? I mean, if I want my kids to study in Switzerland and I'm paying 60% tax in Sweden, I've lost that choice. Right? So these are questions for people to think, and that's where the world, when they start looking at everything in matrices and numbers, they actually get the whole. I mean, the human element is innately lost, right? I think the classic example of what we just discussed.
That's awesome. Awesome. All right. So as we wind down the conversation, Divakar, I want to get into the book. And obviously the name of the book is Don't Just Pay Taxes. But ironically or funny enough, your kids' bedtime questions help build this book, which I think if you said to most people, like, what? tell me about what your kids' bedtime questions and how you helped that sort of became the bedrock for this book.
I mean, so the book starts off with a bedtime story, which I used to have when they were like 6 or 8 years old. Now they both are teenagers. And it ends up with a conversation which I intend to have with my grandkids at some time in future. Um, some of which is why the book is based on the first principles, right? Children come with such amazing curiosity and insights. There is a world of wisdom in their innocent curiosity, and their questions are something which we need to address and not brush them off, because these are questions prior to social conditioning. 'Cause over time, the conditioning makes us to believe and become someone which we not necessarily. Why should the society define who I am as a person, right? Why should the society say thinking like this is right and wrong? So the questions which I still remember, this is a question my son asked: aren't humans the only species to pay to survive on the planet?
It's
Right?
true.
It's so true when you actually look at it. But then when you get back, when you understand the deeper way, money is energy. At the deepest level, money, anything which moves a flow of energy, we denominated by money. If I want to hire someone for 8 hours and pay him $50 an hour, that person applies his or her energy towards the purpose I want. Right. So what I'm trading money for is energy. And even in animal kingdom, if you are a cub or if you are an adolescent, you have to hunt with the pride but eat the last. That's your tax cost you pay till you become the apex predator inside the pride. So in mankind, we call this payment, or which is giving exchanging energy for security, as tax. In animal kingdom, it is effort. It's typically effort. So these are the kind of questions which really made me probe deeper into the core of the levy. And from there, and when the core got amplified or clarified, and you just feel like we've been looking at it the other way around all through.
Wow. Well, who knew a bedtime story could help you, not just your child? That's pretty awesome. And let's wrap this up on the subject for your children. What do you hope your children understand about taxes and purpose that your generation, my generation, wasn't taught? And how does this book help shape the world they'll inherit?
So I think the book has three parts. I think the first part is about it's a struggle to understand. And the second part is about applying the insights of the struggle as an implementation. And the third part is on imagination, how the world can be when we are in an aligned state of existence. So if you are someone, so it caters to three segments of audience. If you are a younger audience, right, early teens, adolescents, and it's a very small book. It's you can read it in an hour's flight. For them, it's about start looking at the game of tax as a possibility before their conditioning actually begins, before the society starts to re-engineer their thought process. For adults at our generation, and young entrepreneurs, the first question they should ask is, how do I align? Because your biggest VC is your government. You don't need to go to an external investor, because every government wants to see a certain category of ventures succeed, and when you be part of that category of ventures, they want to see you succeed. Your success becomes a shared vision, and the momentum of bureaucracy behind is very different. And for an entrepreneur, and for people who are retiring with their corpuses, they should stop looking at saving from taxes and start looking at earning from taxes. That's the mindset probably the entire mankind needs to embrace. And this book probably will be the start of that movement. When you start looking at tax as a source of alignment and possibility, and not as a cost to be minimized.
Name of the book is Don't Just Pay Taxes, How Conscious Entrepreneurs Profit from Taxes. He is Divakar Vijayasarathy. Divakar, great to see you again. Don't wait 2.5 years to connect again. Good luck with the book. Good luck with 2026. And thank you so much for joining me again.
Oh, likewise, Joe. It's always a pleasure.
And that's going to do it for this episode. If you want to find out more information about Divakar and our other amazing authors, go to theauthoritycompany.com.